Hello everybody, if you're new here, welcome to the channel. My name is Raman Dutra. I'm a Brazilian who enjoys interacting with people and constantly developing myself by learning with others. This video is the beginning of a new series I'm starting, called Learning with Leaders, where I will be interviewing people who have a high impact in society so that you can have the opportunity of getting to know them and maybe learn more about how to build your influence from these conversations. This time, I'm going to have a conversation with Samuel Kniznik. He's the founder and CEO of DelaGlobe, the academic director of Instituto Diplomon, where he, along with other young adults, give mentorships for the people willing to participate in Harvard MUN. Samuel, it's such a pleasure to have you here.
Hi everyone, I'm Samuel. I'm going to talking to you today about leadership and how it impacted my life in many manners. And of course, my expectations about today's future, about the way they're going to engage with the topic of leadership and of course apply it in a day-by-day life.
How is your relationship with leadership in your day-by-day life? What are the benefits that you notice by being a leader? And how do you manage to use this in favor of you in your day-by-day life?
I have many ways to define leadership, but I would say the most effective one is sharing knowledge. Because I think that today's youth struggles about making decisions. People need more confidence, not only to make their decisions, but of course to impact others. This is why leadership can be justified as a lacking trait. I think then that a leader today is someone who guides the other to make a right decision through the sharing of confidence. And in my life, I can see this, organizing groups at school, of course, the way I work in some different societies. I can mention the DelaGlobe and Instituto Diplomon, and of course, in Model UN. It has improved many of the soft skills I have today, but of course, through the communication, we have to expose our leaderships a lot, mainly in the role of HMUN, where we have to lead a blog, making the negotiations. We have to share some confidence to make people feel safe with us, and of course, make them see us as leaders. This is very important for me. And I would say this definition is fundamental for each and everybody to feel safe about their decisions.
I think that some of our viewers would like to know what exactly DelaGlobe is. And for that, I would like for you to give us an explanation of that, as well as the reasons why you decided to start DelaGlobe.
I would say that DelaGlobe is a project I created specialized in Model UN that gives the access to make them capacitated for the American model and of course international model, the way we could give the conception of Model UN. It is different to the Brazilian format because we're going to engage with people from other countries and we work in a different system because of the number of students present in each committee. When I was exposed for the first time to these parliamentary procedures, I could see clearly that the other Brazilians present in my committee at HMUN 2020 were totally lost. They knew that they could engage productively with those parley pros, but of course they were shy, they weren't confident, they were in need of a leader. Then in 2021, after attending HMUN again, I decided that I had to create a project that is specialized in it. And of course, availing of the unlimited network that we have with the online world exposed by the pandemic, I created this to be an international project. And then I started impacting countless youngsters from other countries, such as Indonesia, China, I can say Venezuela, India, and Colombia. So I would say that DelaGlobe exactly is a network I created. It was very successful and I'm really proud of it. All my mentees from the project, the immersive program that were present in Boston, they got awarded in the event. So this ameliorates my passion with the project so much.
Also, let's talk a little bit about Instituto Diplomon. How did you get to know these guys and how was the organization founded? What were the reasons that motivated you to say, this is what I want to do, this is what I care about, and that's why I'm going to enter this organization and work with them in order to give better conditions for our society?
The way I met them for the first time was in the line for Starbucks in the queue on 2020 in Boston. And 2 days after it, I could see two Brazilian guys winning an award at HMUN. And I celebrated with him. We talked about how our committees went and how it was to be present at HMUN. 2 months later, he created a project with other youngsters from his city, Salvador, called Instituto Diplomon. I supported it for the first time and attended the conference they organized in 2020. And of course, kept in touch with the endeavors they had with that project and the goal of impacting and democratizing Model UN in Brazil. Thanks to Instituto Diplomum and its engagement with that purpose, it has impacted more than 300,000 students. And after already being a friend of theirs, they invited me friendly to join the project, which is today one of my passions because it gives me the opportunity of changing the scenario in the whole country.
So my next question for you is regarding the mentorships program that you have. How do you think that it impacts not only on our performance at AgeMoon, but also how do you think that impacts on the personal level of all the participants that are mentored by you and also by the other partners of your organizations?
I believe that it started in 2019 in my school, where I had to be the tutor for some students that were newbies and the Model UN group I used to be part, teaching them the regular Parley prose and the ongoing of the flow of debate. Thus, when I started teaching other youngsters in my school, I required them to always expose things that left them uncomfortable, and of course start improving exponentially in the things that they thought they could improve. Not that they needed to improve, not that they needed support, but that they could have any support to become better and better. Model UN changes lives. And I think that for people who really wanted to change their lives and to be dominant in the competitivities, they must improve every time they see the opportunity of improving. For the ones who really have the capability of sharing their knowledge, it is a duty we have. When I teach Model UN, then, it is not about being a mentor for AgeMoon as a whole, but to be someone who will guide people to follow one day a path that is totally similar to the one I followed. For a guy that noticed that he can change the world if he gives his best. I teach strategies and introductive models for AgeMoon for 2 years, and I have no remembrance of a time where it wasn't pleasant for me. This is why I continued, and this is why I want to continue.
To respond to that, I can only give you one phrase: making you limitless. For those who don't know, this is basically one of the models of Teleglobe, and it describes exactly what are the objectives of Teleglobe as a whole. So my next question for you is, why do you consider that leadership is so important nowadays? We all know that in the current world, we have many problems in society, and therefore we need leaders in order to facilitate this problem solving in society. So what do you think is the role of leadership when solving these issues in society?
As said before, leadership is sharing confidence. And hardly is it possible to have such a genuine level of confidence where there's no self-knowledge. As much as leadership is more present in today's youth, of course, still lacking, more will self-knowledge will be as well. Sometimes it is just needed for someone to have a guide and to come there and say, okay, what would you do by yourself at this moment? And then they're going to feel safe. They're going to have more of that self-knowledge they really need to have.
Of course, if I were to describe a word that is relatable to leadership, I myself would say guidance. Because every time we talk about leadership, we every time need a guide, need a person representing this one that is going to literally walk with us through this process of problem solving, of developing many skills that are going to help us during our harsh life as young adults. And my last question for you is basically, what is the message that you would like to give for the former leaders? How can they build their influence and enhance how they impact their current communities?
If I were to leave an only message for today's youth about leadership, inevitably would it be not to consider the topic of leadership something wearable. I would say that leadership is a liquid concept. You will establish your own throughout the time you spend struggling with knowledge and confidence in everything leadership provides you with. Leadership, of course, is showing confidence. So when we talk about leadership, we can move to many different chains, such as imposition, passion, identity, and much more. It is not necessarily about something political, about something you will be required to have interaction to find out. So it is never the same. And leadership for one means something different than it means for the other. So we will have to find out about what we believe. Let you be a guide to yourself, and then you're going to be prepared to guide others. So please give space for yourself. This is the message I want to leave for you today.
Thank you so much for your message. Definitely, there are many ways of approaching leadership. And for example, in my last video, I talked about how authenticity is a key to approaching leadership, and how it can not only enhance your leadership, but also how it can literally build the path until you get to the point of leadership. Also, I'm going to leave the link for this video in the card. And Samuel, it was a pleasure to have you here. I'll also leave, for those who want to contact him, I'll leave all of the links of his social media where you can have a good conversation with him in the description, so that you can also get in touch with him. Samuel, thank you so much for your answers, and it was a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you so much, Shimon. The pleasure is mine.
If you're watching until here, thank you for supporting my channel. If you like the content in here, please consider subscribing and liking the video. This way, you can help me reach more people than today, and it also helps me keep motivated for doing what I do. See you next time. Bye.